When it comes to hip-hop and rap, there is a name that is frequently spoken of in reference. That name is Eminem. His story is full of ups and downs, and that played into his music. So watch as I break down the evolution of Eminem.
Yo, we used to have a roof up on my house, and now we had a mouth to take the cheese out of the fridge.
Number 6. Early life and struggles. If not obvious, Eminem wasn't born with that name. He was born Marshall Bruce Mathers III, and from the earliest parts of his life, he was struggling. One of his first struggles was one of that he couldn't control, for his father abandoned him and his mother when he was very young, forcing his mother Deborah to try to support them both on whatever she could make. Because of this, Deborah had to go from job to job, and she apparently never got to hold on to one for very long, and due to this, the two had to move around a lot. According to Eminem, he moved around so much that he would be at 2 to 4 schools a year, and oftentimes very different ones. This left him being very alone, with no one but his mother that was constantly in his life. And any attempts he made to try to meet his father were shut down by the man. Eminem admitted that in every school he was in, he was an outcast. No one to help him, no one to defend him, and it made him a very angry kid. And then a very angry man. He often blamed his own mother for what had happened because she could never make enough to live in a good house and keep him in one place. Eventually, he dropped out of school, knowing that he just couldn't make it. But there was one thing he did like in school: English. I found out no matter how bad I was at school, like no matter how low my grades might have been at sometimes, I was always good at English. I just felt like I wanted to be able to have all these words at my disposal, in my vocabulary at all times whenever I need to pull them out, you know? Somewhere they'll be stored, like locked away. And soon would use those words to get himself a better life.
Any rapper saying those kind of rhymes, in this day and age, in this period of time, trying to battle Eminem is worse than David Storm.
Number 5. Detroit rap. Knowing he needed to do something with his life, Eminem turned to music for a release as well as a focus. He was enamored with both hip-hop and rap. Groups like NWA inspired him to be something more. And because he lived in Detroit, he was able to see and partake in the underground rap scene that the city was known for at the time. One of the big things were rap battles, a test of wit and skill where rappers would throw insults at one another. At the time, rapping was primarily a black music genre, but Eminem didn't care. He went to war in these rap battles, and he did very well. This is actually where Eminem came from, for he used it as a stage name. But life wasn't set for him just yet. He needed a record label, and he just couldn't afford one doing these battles alone. So he grabbed jobs whenever he could and worked hard to continue towards his dream. This led him to making his own indie album called Infinite, the first music he had ever released. And though it did get some attention in Detroit, everywhere else wasn't enamored with it. That is until the cassette fell into the hands of Dr. Dre.
Something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips. Just a bunch of gibberish, and motherfuckers act like they forgot about Dre.
Number 4. The rise of Eminem. Dr. Dre was known to the world all over because of his role in NWA. And he had his own record label too, and Interscope Records. He saw a lot of promise in Eminem, and signed him to it. For the next 2 years, the duo worked together on refining Eminem's craft. And by 1999, the world got to hear it for the first true time via the Slim Shady LP.
Hi kids, do you like Primus? Wanna see me stick 9-inch nails to each one of my eyelids?
This album was so well made and hyped that it sold 3 million copies. And that was only just the start of what the two would do together. For in 2000, Eminem released the Marshall Mathers LP, named after himself, and it wouldn't be the only time he did that. And this album boomed in the best way possible. For you see, if the Slim Shady LP was just the warm-up, this one was the main act. Marshall Mathers LP featured many hit songs, including ones that proved that Eminem wasn't just a one-trick pony in terms of what he could sing about. He had songs that ranged from The Real Slim Shady to Stan to The Way I Am. Each one very different, each one appealing to a different style and a different audience. The response to his second album was so huge that it sold over 19 million copies worldwide. Eminem got a Grammy for Rap Album of the Year. And to this day, this album is considered one of the best rap albums of all time. And given all that has came before and after Eminem's prime, that's a big statement. The next few years saw many new highs for Eminem, ones that included making a rap group with other Detroit underground rappers in the form of D12, and making his singles with them, as well as making new albums for himself like The Eminem Show and Encore, both of which were commercially and critical successes. And all of this leading to Eminem being the most popular musician from 2000 to 2010. And by popular, I mean that he sold the most music during that time period than any musician in any genre. There's also the fact that he's made a movie about his life in the form of 8 Mile, which is a hit in and of itself. So yeah, things were going pretty well. Until they weren't.
So you gonna visit Lil Wayne in the hospital?
Number 3. Controversy and struggle. As sad as it may sound, There is almost always a cost to things, and for Eminem, that cost was controversy and personal woes. For while his music was considered groundbreaking, poetic in some ways, and very visceral, it was also considered incredibly profane, incredibly violent, and a bad influence on those who were listening to him, especially when it came to the young kids who no doubt heard Eminem on the radio. At first, Eminem did what he could to prove that he wasn't all that he was called, including noting that the only reason he used such language was because it was the language that he grew up in, and it's what he knows. To this day, there are groups of people who hate Eminem because of what he sings about and raps about, and certain things that he does. As for his personal life, it wasn't much better. For the woman that he was married to, Kim Ann Scott, decided to divorce him in 2000, just after his rise to fame. They kept in touch and eventually married again and divorced again. This time though, it was very painful, and it affected Eminem deeply. So much so that he started to abuse substances and alcohol to the extent in 2007, Eminem overloaded and nearly passed. By his own account, he noted that if he had gotten to the hospital just an hour later, he would have been gone for good. He had to turn his life around, but that would come at a cost that he didn't expect.
I'm not afraid.
Number 2. Recovery. Focusing on his physical and mental health, Eminem got sober and would actually celebrate his 10 years of sobriety in 2018, proving that he kept his word to get better. In 2008, he released an album called Relapse, and then in 2009, he released one called Recovery. Both of these albums were meant to chronicle his struggle with addiction, and Recovery especially was the most kind and gentle album that he had ever produced at the time. The album got Best Rap Album of the Year at the Grammys, and Eminem noted that he had the chance to help people, and so he took it, and it worked out well for him. Things started to change though in 2013, for when he released the Marshall Mathers LP2, he started to get some pushback from fans, which is interesting as the album got a Grammy for the song that Eminem did with Rihanna called The Monster. Still, it was successful, and yet not. Then in 2017, 4 years after the Marshall Mathers LP2, he would release an album called Revival. This was another lighthearted album. It featured collaborations with Beyonce and Sheeran, but something happened when he released it. Fans and critics weren't happy. In fact, they called on Eminem for being too different in this particular album. This reveal was a bit shocking in regards to how people view others. For when he did a similar thing for Recovery, people praised him, and he got a Grammy. But when he tried it again here, it didn't work. And people started to ask for the real Slim Shady, because that's who they were in love with, apparently. While most artists can take a hit and keep on going, this was different. This was all but an attack on Eminem, and he wasn't going to have it. He was going to get the last word, and oh boy, did he get the last word and a lot more.
Gotta concentrate against the clock I race. Got no time to waste, I'm already late. I got a marathoner's pace.
Number 1. Slim Shady is a kamikaze. Eminem seemed to be truly down and out after the failure of Revival. And don't get us wrong, he was still respected and he was still worth millions, and was doing massive concert tours all over the world. But something was just off, or so people claimed. Despite Eminem trying to be different, it was clear that people wanted him to be the same guy that started off his career. Angry, violent, and not afraid to spew out the truth in stories that were both poignant and profane. So Eminem started working in secret on another album. No one knew what he was up to outside of his inner circle. And then on August 31st, 2018, Eminem released Kamikaze. It was clear from the get-go that this was an album dedicated to two things: throwing shade on his haters and mumble rappers, and proving to the world that he wasn't going to be just another guy. He was going to be who they wanted. In one of his songs, he proudly proclaimed, "You want Slim Shady? You got him." Though some weren't impressed by the tracks, that didn't speak to everyone. In fact, many loved the new album and saw it as a career revival for the singer. And not only did his songs bring attention, it brought heat from other rappers, including Machine Gun Kelly, who was offended by a lyric in one of the tracks. And so he decided to do a diss track on Eminem, which near immediately got put down by Eminem's own diss track on MGK called Kill Shot. And as if that wasn't enough, Eminem was even contracted to do an official song for the Marvel/Sony film Venom. And not only was it a perfect song for the film, it allowed Eminem to talk about his career and how he's infected people like a Marvel symbiote. So no matter what way you slice it, Slim Shady is most definitely back, and he's going to take no prisoners. And now that the world knows it, we better be ready for what might come next. So what did you think of our breakdown of the evolution of Eminem? Did you learn something more about the singer that you hadn't known before? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time on King Trending. Hey, just a reminder that we're changing up the giveaways. From now on, we're offering the Galaxy Note 9, the one that comes with the exclusive Fortnite skin, the new iPhone X Max, which we'll pre-order for you, and the new Apple Watch Series 4, which we'll also pre-order for you. The winner gets to decide between these three. Make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, drop a like, and comment the hidden message in the video for a chance to win. You got nothing to lose. Go for it.